For round 2 of Formula Drift, we headed south to the Orlando Speed World, which is a 3/8 mile banked oval. We run half of the big bank and half of the infield. It looks like a pretty simple course, but really it's pretty complicated. Everybody drives every course different, and I tried a couple different ways of driving Orlando Speed World, and it all starts with initiation. The way I'm typically most comfortable with initiating is a quick handbrake entry, so that's the way I started. Quick handbrake entry, back on throttle as quickly as possible. Try not to pour too much angle on at the beginning, stay right up next to the wall. About halfway through the bank, you start looking for the inner clip, eyeing it up, and then as you start to get closer, you gotta, inch down the bank and head toward that dreadful transition. It's very violent. Thankfully, our yellow speed coilover soaked it up pretty well. When you transition, you go over the jump or the whoops or, go through the power alley, but there's quite a elevation change, we'll say, in the middle of the racetrack, and I got 4 tires off the ground more than once this weekend, but it's the same for everybody. You try and go through the middle of the track to avoid really taking flight. Cape Canaveral's not far, but we didn't want to be a space shuttle this weekend, so we try to stay toward the middle of the track, transition, set up nice for inner clip 2, back on power hard right there to set up for outer zone 2 right after that, and then put the tire right in the crease between the base of turns 3 and 4 of the oval track and the apron. We put the right rear right in that crease and follow around to the finish. Qualifying was interesting. Really, throughout the whole practice, we were doing much better than we did throughout the course of the day in Road Atlanta. We had a lot of problems throughout practice at Road Atlanta, but moving forward to Orlando, I was pretty comfortable here. I've run here before, I've had success here before, and I was feeling confident going into qualifying. Unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of practice in the same conditions that I qualified in, because unfortunately, since we didn't do great at Road Atlanta, I was one of the later cars to qualify. And I qualified at night, and we didn't get any practice at night. So the track had cooled down significantly, and when the track cools down, it grips up a lot. And it really affected me. I tried to do my handbrake initiation, and when I got back on the power, it just drove straight down the bank. So it just was really unfortunate that I wasn't able to put the car where I wanted it to be and where I had been able to put it in practice. It was not an ideal qualifying lap. The first lap was bad. I ended up in the low 70s or mid 70s, somewhere in the not so great 8, as Jared DeAnda likes to call it, and it's appropriately named so because nobody wants to be down there. And that's where we ended up after the first lap. I learned a lot about the way the track conditions were in that first lap, but I wish I hadn't had to learn it the hard way by being, in the bottom. So that's where we ended up. The bottom of 8 qualifying lap was significantly better. So at this point I was mad because I had had such a bad lap on the first one. I was pissed at myself, I was pissed at the car, I was pissed because we didn't get practice in the conditions that we were qualifying in, and all of that just basically led to just stand on the loud pedal and steer. Instead of doing the handbrake initiation, I did kind of a flick up and a quick handbrake pull, and I was able to put it right on the wall pretty much all the way around the big bank. Came crashing down off the big bank and came past interclip 1, sparks flying out, and the car backfiring and doing all kinds of crazy noises the way drift cars do. And I was able to transition past the second interclip, poured maybe a little bit too much angle on too quickly right there. Might have looked like too much of an adjustment for the judges, but I was able to kind of hold that angle throughout the rest of outer zone 2. Ended up with an 86. I was second of the not so great 8 cars. Dye ended up qualifying a couple points ahead of me, but that put me in 26th out of 32 drivers. Since I was in the bottom 8 after the first lap, I can't qualify any better than 25th once you're in that situation. So I ended up 26th.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the
So since we qualified not great, 26th, that put me against Ryan Turk, who is a pillar of the sport. He's one of the top guys every year. We know he's going to be one of the guys to beat. We were confident going into the battle, and we kind of knew what to expect. We knew how he was going to initiate. We know he's fast and high on the bank and puts the car where it needed to be. So I knew that I could trust his lead line and just go give it hell and, you know, try and stick it to his door and, you know, put on the show that the fans want to see and the run that I expect out of myself. Ryan led first because he was the higher qualifier. It really is an advantage to get the lead first because it's a lot harder to chase in drifting than it is to lead, and it's a lot easier to make a mistake, and it's very easy to make a mistake here because it's very, very easy to get caught up in the smoke, especially coming off of outer zone 1 into inner clip 1 and coming through the power alley. I've made the mistake a couple times of getting caught in that smoke and transitioning too early and trying to drive the car through the infield, so didn't want to do that. But I timed up the start better than I have in previous rounds, maybe better than I have maybe ever. And I was able to stay with him down the straightaway. I initiated up with him. The car got a little bit funky right at the beginning of the initiation in my chase. It wavered just a little bit on the bank, but I was able to stay right with him through the full outer zone 1 and off of the bank into inner clip 1. I had a little bit of a wonky transition between inner clip 1 and inner clip 2 that made me lose a little bit of ground to him, but I was able to surge back and gain some of that proximity back throughout the rest of outer zone 2 and finished pretty close to him overall. My lead run, I had pretty high expectations myself because I had done so well in practice. I knew that I wasn't going to do a straight line handbrake initiation at this point. So I got going pretty well, no restarts, no weirdness, everything was good, car shifted great, and I initiated. When I initially went up into drift, I poured just a little bit too much angle on when I first flicked it up at the bank, and I was maybe half a car length off the wall, but I was able to work it up close to the wall. Actually, I think scraped the wall through the second half of outer zone 1 and finished the course really with pretty relative ease. Maybe had one little bobble or transition coming across the middle, but I was pretty happy with the overall lap. And I knew talking to Tamara that Ryan had made some mistakes behind me. I knew I had made a couple mistakes behind him, and it was a deserving call of going one more time.
Well done, Ryan turn.
Going into that chase, I stayed a little bit closer to him on the run up even than the first time, and I didn't use any handbrake or any real flick to initiate. I just powered on it and drove up to there, right up to his door and right up next to the wall and brushed the wall on initiation, and it was pretty scary. When you don't have any sort of weight transfer or the comfort of a handbrake initiation, it's a fine line of success and failure, and success is putting it right on the lead driver's door, and failure might be building a new car. Fortunately, we were able to do the former and put it right on his door, but it's a terrifying thing, especially when there's a giant concrete wall painted bright green that you know you're gonna stuff it in the fence if you mess it up. So we were very happy that I didn't mess that up and was able to stick right on his door. And he came down off the bank. I came down a little bit low with him. I transitioned real hard coming off from the bank to the infield. Felt the car shimmy and get upset coming into the infield, but I was still able to transition right with him, put it back to his door, and then I felt the car start to lose grip. I wasn't able to surge up to him coming through outer zone 2 like I was in the first battle, and it started to occur to me that I may have debeaded a tire. It turned out I did, in fact, debead the left rear tire coming off the bank. It debeaded on the inside and on the outside, and the rule in Formula Drift is if you debead in your first lap of your battle, you're not able to complete the second half of that battle. They will not let you put the tire back on the wheel or change it. It's part of the rule book. It sucks. I don't like that part of the rule book now because it really hurt me. Again, I really felt like I had a really good shot at beating Ryan, and Ryan's a really great competitor and a top-notch driver, and to kind of have him in our sights and maybe have that opportunity to move forward for our first top 16 of the year, it was really disappointing to have that loss, and especially to have it in that way where I wasn't able to complete the second half of the battle to give ourselves a fighting chance. So if you haven't already, take a moment to like, comment, subscribe. I hope you're enjoying this style of video. We're having a lot of fun making them. Really appreciate all of the fans coming out. So a sold out event, first one I think maybe ever at Orlando that looked like a ton of people from my perspective. And of course, thanks to our crew and our sponsors, everyone that supports us. Hope you enjoyed this. See you on the next one.